for yin, but our longest hold is a supported fish. And in a supported fish, you have a block or a book or maybe a couple rolled up towels, and you'll place it on your mat right in between your shoulder blades, and you'll lie on it with your shoulder blades creating an opening of the chest and the front of the neck. And because it was our, we always talk about like, this pose is very vulnerable, you're open, all your organs are open, which is not something we do naturally, is show off our organs. And I was like, what organs are we showing off? So I want to talk about the organs in the thoracic cavity. So the organs that we open up when we're in fish. And I thought that'd be fun to think about. So guitar, and then, okay. So the organs of the chest, the first one is the most obvious one, of the heart.
Hey.
And then we could, with the heart, we could,
Sorry.
Oh, we could almost feel it beating throughout that pose. The next one is the lungs. The lungs also, you can feel in fish pose, your lungs kind of pressing up against the ribs. Another one that was interesting was the trachea, which is basically your lungs tool for allowing air to come in and out of the body. So it's attached to the respiratory system. And right behind the trachea, not in this picture, is our esophagus, which connects to our digestive system. And, allows us to swallow, allows us to create saliva and other liquids. And then lastly is the thymus, which is a lymphatic organ, which actually, did I get a picture of that? No, I didn't. The thymus it's kind of right here between where the sternum is and the two clavicle bones meet. Right behind there is actually a lymphatic tissue that through your kind of younger adolescence creates a type of immunity lymphocyte cell, and then shrinks once you become an adult into something very, very small, or some adults don't even have one anymore. It's this little lymphatic tissue right here in the chest. And yeah, so I just kind of wanted to go over those. I think it's really interesting to feel those organs and how they're kind of reacting in the pose. Lung and heart are pretty obvious because they're going automatically. But things like our trachea and our esophagus, all of this is increasing blood flow to these wonderful organs to make them healthier. And so opening the chest can also be healthy for your digestive system because it's allowing more stretch and openness of the esophagus, as well as the trachea, as well as the lungs and the heart. So I'm looking forward to that pose today. And we've got a couple other chest openers to warm that pose up, but I know my back and my spine can really use a fish too. All right. Awesome. And I will ping Greta.
Awesome. Thanks, Veronica. Sorry, I wasn't on mute. I love the heart lecture. And actually I grabbed my the web that has no Weaver book on Chinese medicine about the heart meridian. So we've unintentionally paired very well. So go ahead and find a comfortable seat. Just take a moment to settle. Feel the connection between the sides of your ankles, glutes, And then also feel the lengthening of your spine. Relax the shoulders, release tension in the forehead, release tension in the belly. And let the tongue relax. And then we'll do 1 clearing breath and 3 rounds of inhale in through the nose. And exhale out of the mouth, HA. It's time to prepare for Om. Inhale. Inhale, breathe in. And exhale, release the breath out. I'm so proud of Apollo for being a good boy during that Om. And we'll go ahead and start class today in Balasana, in child's pose. So bring the toes to touch. Knees can either be extended or together. Arms can be long in front of you. They can be at your sides. You can grab a pillow or something else to support the chest. And I'll make sure to give a halfway mark. So if you want to alternate your cheek. And we will begin. And I will talk about the tenets of yoga. So, or sorry, not of yoga, of yin. Yin, the word yin is actually very much rooted in meridian theory and Chinese medicine, at least the word yin. And yin that we practice very much in the same style that Bernie Clark teaches, with the 3 tattvas. And yin poses, you can actually find them in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. So if you're coming from like the yoga background, a lot of the first yoga poses that emerged were very yin in nature. And so there's this kind of like multifaceted, very like layerous aspect to this practice. And we always at the end of class kind of acknowledge the origins and where these practices originated from, because it is so important. But maybe integrating it in early in class. And I'll briefly talk about the tenets and the practice of Yin Yoga. I think everyone here is familiar, so I'm not going to linger over too much anatomical detail. But Yin is the opposite of Yang. It is dark. It is the shady side of the mountain. It is mysterious. It is lunar, reflective. Tends to be associated with the new moon, the dark moon. So really finding a quality, like maybe I've said one in the past, like it's regenerative, it's restorative. Like if there's a word that pops out to you, trying to cultivate that with each pose that we do and incorporate that into your practice can be a really beautiful way to kind of meditate with each of the poses. And there's 3 tattvas. The first is to meet your gentle edge, pertinent depth, 40-80%. Name of the game here is just to be able to hold it for time, to be sustainable in the pose that you choose, which may require you pulling your edge back from your full range of motion or adding a prop. The second is to be still. Of course, we always want to avoid any sharp, burning, stabbing sensations, even tingling. We never want to experience any pain in this practice. We do not persevere to do that. We change it, we switch it, we access it with another intention. And then follow your edge. If you feel kind of the legs finally release, sometimes there's that moment where the muscles are like, they stop firing. Follow your edge and get into the connective tissue. That's definitely what we're getting into. And then lastly, hold for time. And we keep track of time. Speaking of which, we are at our halfway point, a little bit past actually. So if you wanted to just barely switch the cheek, now is a good time to do that. And we keep track of time on our phones. We give halfway, minute, and final marks. And when you do come up out of the poses, move slowly, move intentionally, try to come back to the yin qualities and enjoy the release. I feel like it's just as much a part of the practice as the hold. I think it's pretty easy to rush through transition. I know that's definitely my tendency. So maybe even today, focusing on that part of the class, like how do I exit? How do I transition? It's not just about the holds. And I guess the only other thing is when in doubt, like turn towards yourself with compassion, with kindness. It's really easy, especially in quiet, for the narrative to get super loud. Be patient, be genuine, and try to really boil down the essence of like what those words mean if it like makes you think too much of a Hallmark card. And we are coming up on our final minute here. And slowly begin to discern how you would like to exit your pose. Moving with intention. Maybe you do want to move quickly because it's just too much compression in the legs. And then taking any form of release. Maybe you extend one leg out, the other leg. Maybe you flow through a little flexion and extension of the spine, cat and cow. And then coming to lay on your belly. And from here, we'll practice crocodile, bringing the belly to the earth. And we'll start with our right side. Extend the right arm out, like half of a T. Bring the right cheek to the mat. Place the left palm by your face. And then slowly begin to kick the left leg behind you. And if you get here and you're like something is pinchy, something is not right, maybe bringing the belly a little bit closer to the earth. And then you can also experiment with where your arm is in space, the right arm. Maybe you bring the arm a little bit closer to your hips. Maybe you experiment with bringing it, like if your face was 12 o'clock, you bring it to like 2. Maybe you bend your elbow. That's always a little like too much for me, but there's definitely room to get curious here and find the depth that is going to suit you most. And it's still pretty early in the practice. So if the mind immediately like jumps to chatter, if it's like kind of restless, this is a good time to initiate more of a mindfulness intention. So maybe you find your breath such a powerful tool to utilize as a focal point. And focusing, you can focus on, there's so many things. You can use the lungs, you can concentrate on the movement of your ribs, and think about the heart. You can think about the pericardium, the layer over it, kind of keeping it safe. And this is the halfway point. And the final minute. And over the next 10 seconds, so the next 10 breaths, or maybe less, like 5 breaths, slowly begin to bring your chest down to the floor. It does not have to be quick. And from here, gently press up into a Sphinx pose. The legs extended out behind you, forearms are on the ground, kind of creating this goalpost or 11 shape. And from here, if you're feeling pinching in the back right away, create some width in between your elbows. Bring the chest closer to the ground. If you get here and you're like, I don't know, I don't feel anything. Maybe if you have the blocks or towels or pillows or anything, you can elevate, you can come a little bit higher, lifting the floor up, more compression in the lumbar spine, the lower back. This might be too intense. So really finding, again, permanent depth, and everybody is going to be different just based off of our anatomy, based off of how we've lived our lives, based off of how much water we drink today. Like there's a lot of different facets. And releasing tension where you might be holding it, just doing a quick body scan. Unfurl the brow, relax your shoulders. If it's too much in the elbows, finding support for the chest. And this is the halfway point. And this compression in the lower spine is also where the adrenal kidneys are. So corresponds to kind of hormone regulation to chemicals being released in the body. And this is the final minute. And you can choose to stay exactly as you are, or you can finagle your way into Sphinx pose, or sorry, not Sphinx, seal, which is pressing the palms into the mat. And Bernie really teaches this posture as the arms are right underneath the shoulders. And this is just so there's no activity or muscle activation in your arms. So it's very much aerial, and like the waves are like crashing behind. Like that's kind of what you're going for. You get up here and you're like, whoa, not happening. Like please listen to your body and come back down to Sphinx. We're not going to be here for super long. There's like 30 seconds left. And slowly sink the hips over the heels. I definitely need a little flexion extension after that deep flexion in the spine. So I'm going to just flow through like a seated cat and cow. If there is something else your body is craving, maybe you want to do a little bit of a twist, you're welcome to find that in your practice. And then we will head over to the other side when you're ready. So coming to lay on the belly, and we'll practice crocodile. Extend the left arm out, bring the left cheek to the ground, plant the right palm by your face, and then slowly begin to kick the right leg behind. And maybe you arrived exactly where you wanted to be right away. Maybe you experiment with the angle that your arm is in, the left arm. Maybe you experiment with the right arm too. And we'll be here for 3 minutes. And this is the halfway point. Assess your edge. Notice if you need to take anything away, add anything. And the final minute.
And slowly over the next 5 breaths, begin to make your way back to neutral. Come onto the belly. Lower the chest, lower the pelvis down. Bring the left arm in. And come into a little seat. And then just take any release. I'm feeling a little bit of a supine twist. Maybe you do cat-cow, maybe you hood and shrug your shoulders, like really taking organic movement, whatever rises up naturally, do that thing. And then Veronica is gonna guide us through the next bit.
Thank you, Greta. All right, now that we've gotten a fair amount of stretching done in our shoulders, we're gonna move on to our hips. So our first pose is gonna be half butterfly, and I'm gonna do it with a block under my sacrum to kind of create more of a tilt in my pelvis. So if you'd like to also use that prop today, go ahead and sit up on the block, and you kind of want to sit at like the bony aspect of your tailbone. Yeah. And then we'll start by taking the right leg in first in half butterfly. Now your foot can either be way up high here, or it could be a little bit lower, or it could even be a little bit out. What you just want to make sure you're doing is having this leg fall out. And then we're going to kind of take a deep breath into our chest and slowly turn over to face the left leg. On the next inhale, kind of lift your chest one more time, and then your exhale, fold forward over the left leg. Your arms can either be out reaching for your foot, they can fall down, just open palm face up onto the mat. Your head can dangle, creating kind of that extra flexion in the neck. And probably really feeling this one in the lower back. All right, we're at our halfway point. And if you feel this in your knee, particularly your left knee, you can alleviate that by bending the knee a little bit and still folding over it. You'll still get that same benefit in the spine and the lower back. You're just taking some of the strain off of your hamstring when you bend your knee a little bit. We will do more hamstring after this, so your hamstrings aren't, going to be totally. This isn't their only moment today. This is our final minute. All right, slowly by slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae, just walk yourself back up to a tall spine. Head coming up last. Maybe bending the left knee, giving it a little bit of rub out, shake out, twists. Then we're going to go ahead and reposition ourselves so if we've moved on our block, sitting into the center of the mat, we're going to go into a forward straddle. So taking the right leg out long, you don't need to be in a full like splits or anything at all. You can even just be like this. To support the knees, you can place blocks underneath each knee and fold over this way. You can sit on a towel or a yoga mat to tilt the pelvis. This pose, you can really take the time to set it up because it's a huge, huge stretch of really, really deep muscles in the hips and the adductors. And you definitely don't want them to be pulled. So I'll start my timer. Fold forward if you haven't already. This pose gets into not only the adductors, but the hamstrings. It gets into the quadratus lumborum on the back. It gets it to the little bit of the top of the glute maximus. And when you think about it, where kind of your thigh bone is right now in your hip socket, it's pretty incredible. Your pelvis is tilted forward. This bone is going at almost depending on where you are, but 20 to 45-degree angle in the hip socket. And this is our halfway point. This is our final minute. All right, moving slowly up one by one, releasing each vertebrae in the back. Ooh, coming up to a tall seat. Pet the kitties around you. And then we're gonna go on to doing right leg long, left leg in. This foot can come up anywhere. Oh, little yoga kitten. Again, this foot can come up anywhere. If it could come up mid-calf, it could go down the knee. It could be all the way out here. Wherever it is, it's okay if it's different from the other side that we did before. I'll go ahead and start my timer. Take a deep breath in. Turn the chest over the right leg. Arms come up, and on the exhale, fold over the right leg.
Zelda. Zelda. Come here, Zelda. Zelda, come here. Come on, Zelda. Zelda.
Right, coming up on our halfway point. And coming up on our final minute. All right. Slowly coming up vertebrae by vertebrae. Ooh. I'm bringing the leg in, coming to remove any props that you might have been using on your mat. And just do a couple long windshield wipers. Okay. We have a backyard colony of cats, and this kitten right here is the only socialized one, and she's really sweet, but every time she comes inside, she doesn't know what to do with herself, so she just climbs all over you and things. All right, next is supported fish. Her name is Zelda. We're gonna grab a block or a stack of books, or sometimes I even just like to use a folded up blanket like this, or sometimes I like to do the blanket above, or blanket not above, draped over the block just so it's a little bit softer. This block is gonna go right in between your shoulder blades. And as you slowly lower it down onto this, you wanna make sure that the tops of your shoulders are able to open out, pressing the sternum towards the ceiling. If this is a lot on your neck when you fold your head all the way back, feel free to put another block or use a pillow to support the head, because this really is about stretching and opening the sternum and the organ space that we talked about, the lungs, the heart, not necessarily about stretching, the cervical spine and the neck too much. As for the legs, you can either have them out long, have your feet flat with the knees bent, that's another option, or you can also have them in a butterfly shape or in a cross-legged shape to get a little bit of external rotation on your hips. I'm gonna go with the butterfly because that seems like a nice suggestion. We just did a bunch of half butterflies. And we're gonna be here for 6 minutes. I'll give you the halfway point and the final minute. Now, this is a very, very great way to really calm down the nervous system. Every breath is meeting almost a bit of resistance on the lungs and on the rib cage. And your heart is beating towards the ceiling. It's also kind of compressing and putting some pressure on the mid-thoracic spine, that kind of part that we normally hunch over our computers or our desks, or even just hunch forward because we're trying to stay warm as we're outside. Right, we're coming up to our halfway point. In traditional Chinese medicine, the heart is something that actually sharp. When your heart is balanced, your instincts are actually sharpened as well. And this instinct is one that's natural to all of us. It's a compassionate instinct. And you're able to do it at the right time in the right place. So an example of this would be if you see someone about to cross the street and they're holding 8 bags of groceries. Maybe your instinct, if you have a healthy, well taken care of heart, would be to offer this person help across the street with their groceries. And I think that's just such a nice, new, fresh way to look at the heart. And one of the many benefits it gives us energetically, how we, interact with the world around us. It's one thing, to pump our blood through our body and keep us alive, but its more energetic response is very instinctual and very compassionate in nature. This is our final minute. Taking a deep breath in and bringing it back to just the breath. I've always noticed in fish that my breathing at the end of the pose in the final minute is so different from the first minute. Right, moving very, very slowly and mindfully. Begin to almost picture your way out and then make that first move, whether it be lifting just the head, whether it be stretching out the legs, whether it be kind of rolling off the block or slowly lifting yourself back up. Giving, yeah, any wiggles and shakes and neck rolls you might be really feeling. And I'll pass it off to Greta.
Thanks, Veronica. Zelda is absolutely adorable and provided so much needed comic relief. So thank you for that. And getting any last minute fidgets that you needed after that long supported fish, I definitely feel very expansive in my chest. And moving into some half pigeon. If you like a supine pigeon, go ahead, just get onto your back, practice figure 4, especially if it feels better in your knees or your ankles. But otherwise, coming into a tabletop, inhale, tuck under the back toes, exhale, press back, downward facing dog. This is not a vinyasa setting, so it doesn't have to be anything right now. Maybe paddle out the legs real quick. And then inhale your right leg up high. And exhale, half pigeon, bring right knee behind right wrist. Untuck the back toes, flatten them down. And before you fold forward, just taking a moment to zero in on the pelvis and noticing if it's kind of gravitating toward the right or the left side. Noticing if you need some support there, might be nice to put a book or a block or maybe like some vinyl, or if there's something you can put underneath it to support it. This candle actually might work really well for me. It's like right size. So just find the appropriate support and then slowly folding forward. And I will set the timer. And Veronica did a really beautiful job speaking to the heart meridian pretty candidly. On the other side, I think maybe I'll just read a description of, I'll just do it right now so we can have that knowledge for both sides. I used to take the Friday 10:30 class, and sometimes Cindy would just read the meridians, and it's almost like, it's like a body scan, but it's the meridian chart. So close your eyes if they're not already closed, and try to sense and feel the heart meridian as I describe it anatomically. The heart meridian has 3 branches, each which begins in the heart. One branch runs downward through the diaphragm to connect to the small intestine. A second branch runs upward from the heart along the side of the throat to meet the eye. So I'll say that again. The second branch runs upward from the heart along the side of the throat to meet the eye. The third branch runs across the chest from the heart to the lung, then descends and emerges into the underarm. It passes along the midline of the inside of the upper arm, runs downward across the inner elbow, along the midline of the inside of the forearm, crosses the wrist and palm, and terminates at the inside tip of the little finger, where it connects to the small intestine meridian. And like Veronica was saying, the heart stores the spirit, Shen. This is the halfway point. This is the final minute. And then slowly begin to come back into a downward facing dog. If you're on your back, you can just slowly begin to maneuver to the other side. And walk your hands back to your hips, with the chest, tuck under your back toe, engage your back leg, and send the right leg up high for a three-legged dog. And rotate the femur and the ball and socket joint, feel the pelvis, feel the synovial fluid, articular cartilage, the release. And then plant the right foot down and switch sides. And taking your time getting there, does not have to be rushed. Inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale, half pigeon on the left side. Left knee behind left wrist. Untuck the back toes. And set yourself up on this side just like you did on the other. And this side is likely a very different experience. So adding the support on this side if you need it. And then walking the arms forward and maybe even resting the hands upon, or the face upon the tops of your hands. The heart stores the spirit. The heart guarantees connection to the stores, the small spirit component of the person's entire spirit. The heart spirit ensures that whatever consciousness, intention, volition, thought, reflection, and self-awareness exists within the large composite spirit, intersects and clicks with the world of time and space. The heart is responsible for appropriate behavior, timely interactions, and being suitable to the context. This is the halfway point. And final minute. And slowly begin to make your transition intentionally. Slowly out, walk the hands back towards your hips, tuck under the back toe, engage back leg, send left leg up high, and enjoy the release. Sometimes I think I've heard it called like the echo of the pose. And then plant the left foot down. And then come onto all fours and then let the hips sink off to one side and come to lay on your back. We're going to seal class with a supine twist and shavasana. So coming to lay on the back. And I'm going to cue Garudasana legs or twisted root, they call it in Yin. And if you're curious about why Yin poses have different names, supposedly it's because it wants us to kind of access different parts of our mind when the muscles are not active. So you're kind of approaching with a different intention, which is why they renamed them. So bring the right leg up and over the left. And this is a good place to be. You might also choose to bring the right shin behind the left calf muscle. Plant the feet down, drop the legs towards the left. Let the right arm go out like half of a T. And I like to bring my left hand on top of the ribs, or maybe you bring it to the heart. And we're not going to be here for super long, 2 minutes each side. This is the halfway, final minute mark. And remembering does not have to be extreme to be effective. Or really, the intention right now is directed towards the spinal twist. So meeting that intention, if you need to modify your legs or add support. And direct the knees back towards center. Unthread your legs. And then we'll switch to the other side. Taking movement, free movement, you need to bring the left leg up and over the right. Maybe on this side, you don't go for the double bind. Maybe you do. Plant the feet down, drop the knees towards the right. Left arm goes out like half a T. Gaze can be up, gaze can be directed at your fingertips. Whatever is going to feel like the appropriate range of motion in your neck. Final minute, halfway point. And then direct your knees back towards center. Unravel the legs. Maybe you choose to draw your knees towards your face. Maybe roll on the sacrum, the flat part of your back. Might feel nice. And then release into Shavasana, final rest. Let the limbs come down. You can always choose to rest on your side, on the belly. And I will let you know when it's time to come up and out of the practice. And if you're seeking a focus, definitely coming back to the heart meridian, coming back to the heart, the lungs, anatomy that Veronica went over at the beginning of class. Centering your awareness there.
And you're welcome to stay as long as you need. Otherwise, begin to invite movement, really subtle, small, barely noticeable to the human eye, movement back into your body. And with each tiny movement, let it grow bigger, more expansive, more deliberate. And eventually, bring the arms up overhead. And draw the knees towards your chest. And choose if you want to roll to the right, which tends to be more solar, more yang, or the left, more yin, more reflective. Using the bicep like a pillow. And coming into this fetal position. Carving out some gratitude and appreciation, sending a wave of appreciation to yourself for showing up and doing something so not only anatomically and physically beneficial, but also really cultivating this discipline of awareness and also integrating different parts of yin and meridian theory into your practice, honoring the lineage associated with the yin practice, coming from India and also China, and honoring the unceded ancestral lands of the Coast Salish Tuamish people here in Seattle, and the unceded ancestral lands of the Lapade and Canarsie and Rockaway people, and really honoring the indigenous traditions and all the wisdom there. You can gently begin to press yourself back up to a seat. And if it feels authentic in your practice, we'll meet with hands at heart center. And this is the Anjali Mudra. It represents non-dualism. It kind of embodies more of a sense of fluidity. And then bringing hands from heart center to third eye and bowing forward to seal in your practice, honoring the whole self, both the shadow and luminous aspects of self. Peace and thank you.